I, like most of us, didn't grow up with parents. I was a people pleaser, following the boys and allowing them to lead and doing what they would suggest me. So I went even deeper into partying and doing all the things. This time, someone came and put something in my mouth, and I didn't know what it was until I started to trip out, and it was a LSD. I remember driving, and I felt like I was in this movie. I was there, and this voice just told me, park the car. So I parked the car. I wanted to be a psychologist growing up. However, my father suggested me that I should become a lawyer. I realized that could not be me. Me and my younger brother, we decided to travel and come to Australia. Coming here, we got married very quickly. We had a business, we had a martial arts academy, and life started to move really fast.
I believe every one of us is created for a reason here, to input into other people's lives, what we've learned, how we've grown. Everybody is here for that reason. How did you start making a difference?
I think one secret that I'm going to share here is
Mariana, welcome to the Tomorrow's Not Today podcast. I'm so excited to have you in here.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a long time coming, so thanks for having me here again.
It has been a long time coming. We met probably 7-8 months ago, I think it was, initially.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And you could tell the first time we met, I could just tell you had a lot to offer. Didn't get a lot out of you at that stage, but the more I've got to know you and seen a lot of you on social media and some of the work that you're doing, it's like, yeah, you have to be on the podcast because you've got a lot to offer people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I cannot wait.
So we're going to get into this in a big way. But first of all, can you tell everyone a little bit about who you are, how you help people at the moment?
Sure, yes. My name is Mariana Lennert, and I say that I am a feminine leadership mentor. I really support women to step into who they are in the most authentic way, so they can really step into leadership in their life, in their relationships, in their business, and create a bigger impact in whatever way that feels in alignment for them.
I love that so much. And I think you are uniquely qualified to be able to do this. And we're going to get into that and get into your story. One of the reasons I wanted you in here is because one of the big goals of this podcast is to help people realize no matter who they are, where they're from, what they've done, who they are now, what they're doing now, you can make a difference. You can leave the world in a better place and become a better person. And that's one of the critical things. And you've got a lot to offer in this way. So obviously there's a little bit of an accent there. Tell us, where are you from?
Yes. So I do a lot of talks on that as well, because I do feel that what you said, everybody has a story to share. So my accent is, I'm from Brazil. And this month, April, right now, it's been 19 years since I have arrived in Australia.
Wow.
Which is amazing just to think about this journey. So I was born in Brazil, and I left my law career and decided to explore the world, not to live, just for some time and, learn a different language. So I came to Australia, and here I am 19 years later, living my best life and, really walking the path that is my purpose in this lifetime.
Love that. Love that. It seems a lot of people, especially Brazilians, seem to come to Australia, just go over, learn a bit of language and stuck. You're here.
Yeah.
You love it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So you're obviously 19 years. Congratulations on that. That's awesome. I love it when we bring in fantastic people like you, which is gold. But I know it wasn't always like that.
Yes, definitely not.
Tell me what brought you to Australia in the first place.
Yeah, that's a very deep and profound part of my journey for sure. And I grew up in a beautiful family. I was the only girl around a lot of boys, 2 siblings plus another 5 cousins. And I learned how to be very tough, a tomboy, play outside, fishing, soccer, all the things. But On the same side, I was a people pleaser, and I became
Mm.
to, become a yes girl, and always, following the boys and allowing them to lead and doing what they would suggest me, play with whatever they wanted to play. And that was the same inside of my house because like most of us, didn't grow up with parents and they were doing the best they could at the time. We all know that. But, they didn't encourage me to trust myself, to trust that my decisions, they were right for me. So I wanted to be a psychologist growing up. I always been obsessed with people and supporting others. However, my father suggested me that I should study law, that I should become a lawyer. And of course, I was only 16 going into university, so young. I certainly believed on him, that he would know what's best for me. So I did law, had the best time studying, going to university, lived by myself, party a lot, and, had a really great time. So when I started to work as a lawyer, at that moment, working in criminal law in an office from 9 to 5, reading horrible cases of tragedy, I realized that that could not be me. I felt my body, my soul, every bit of myself screaming out loud to get out of that.
Mm.
So in that moment, I started to see my options, and everything was in alignment for me before I took that career really serious. I had recently broke up with my boyfriend, and I thought, what a great opportunity to now, discover the world. So that's what I did. Me and my younger brother, we decided to travel and come to Australia. Coming here, arriving in this incredible place. I remember the first time that when I arrived in Coolangatta, and I can still remember the smell. I think it was Easter weekend, and it was so quiet. Everything felt so fresh until I think the realization of the decision that I made really hit me when I realized that everywhere I went, I couldn't express myself because I didn't speak a word of English.
Oh, wow.
And quickly I learned how to say, sorry, I don't speak English, right? I mean, like people would come to me, I'm like, sorry, sorry, I don't speak English, because I was freaking out every time I had to go and ask for something and people would have a conversation with me. It was very, very difficult, way more than I thought it would be. So I studied for 2.5 years, and I, could barely have a conversation because all my teachers, they would speak English, as they teaching us. So it
Yeah,
made it
yeah.
extra hard to actually learn the language. So that was my path, just learning how to express myself again, knowing who I was in a different country, super young. I didn't know anyone apart from my brother. But and then I found a boyfriend, an Australian boyfriend. They say there was a great recipe to fast track your English learning. I'm like, all right, great. I'm in for that. So I did it. And then I found myself 3 months later pregnant, and that was when I was making a decision to go back. Like, do I go back now, or do I go into do another visa application? And I was pregnant. I'm like, wow, like it was a really difficult moment in my life because I knew that I didn't love that person. Even though he was a great man at the time, I knew that that would not be it for my life. However, I come from a very Christian family, and we have very strong values about pregnancy. And at this moment, I am so, so grateful for my family and for supporting me through that journey of making a decision. However, a month later, we broke up. A month later, my son was born. We split up. The relationship went in a completely different direction. He was Australian, and I think for him, in his motto of being a partner was okay to drink and go out, and
Yeah,
and
wow.
and he turned out to be a very different person than the one that I met in the first place.
Mm.
So thank God that I was a lawyer back home, so I knew I had some rights, and I quickly made a decision to move apart from him. Actually, he left, and I was left in the house, and I believe that divine is always orchestrating, for our highest purpose, and always trying to pour into our vessel, what's best for us, even when we can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially when we can't see,
Mm-hmm.
in fact. And then 3 months later, I met my husband, who was my next door neighbor. And we got married very quickly. And on the honeymoon, I felt pregnant of my daughter. And that was life. So soon I had this
Wow.
amazing family, 2 beautiful kids, husband, everything else. And I could not believe that it just, very much a year and a half later, I was crying, like being, all sort of things being, put on my way that I didn't know how to deal with. And then, soon I had 2 children in a beautiful husband. We had a business, we had a martial arts academy, and life started to move really fast. And I got to this point where I had a lot of the things that you're supposed to be grateful for. I had a beautiful family. I had 2 beautiful, healthy children. I had a business. We actually had, 3 businesses at the time. And even though everything else looked so great, I was healthy. I was competing in jiu-jitsu. I had, I was training for Muay Thai fights. I was really fit. My internal world was crumbling. I was dying. I was so angry at the world. I was so angry at everybody around me. I was so unhappy. I was diagnosed with depression, having panic attacks, and I couldn't really understand why. Because if you look at my life, I should be happy. I should be
Mm.
grateful. And then now, only now, looking back and connecting the dots, I really understand that that was, teaching me and guiding me on how to find my purpose. It took me on this healing journey of learning, you know, going through myself different healing modalities, plant medicine, mindset work, Tony Robbins, all kind of things, to not only find myself again, but also to find what I'm here to do and the impact that I'm here to have in the world.
So, for you, that depression you went through, that internal sadness, was a misalignment of who you were compared to what you should be doing.
100%. 100%. I feel that every time that we are not in alignment with our true purpose and with who we truly are, we feel our body will show. Our
Mm.
life will show in some way or form. And what I see a lot right now, it's a lot and a lot, like millions of women going through that. But we
Mm.
always reach out for the medication, for the wine, for the online shopping, for so many of outlets, instead of actually looking within and finding the reason why. Why are we doing this? Why are we feeling this way?
I have so many questions rocking around in my head right now. It's like, which way do we go here? I love what you just said there. And I hope people picked up on that in a big, big way, because that is so critically important. So it sounds like when you were a lawyer back in Brazil, you had this same sort of sense about you. And then you came to Australia, bit of a rough, rocky road to start with, but then it all got in a really good place, and you look like, hey, you must be the happiest person on the planet.
Exactly.
Everything's working well, beautiful husband, beautiful family, businesses, successful, fit, everything's happening, but it wasn't. How did you, obviously there's something going on in the inside. What was it that triggered you to stop and think about, why am I not happy?
Great question. So for me, it was self-awareness first. I had to come to the place of auditing my life, really looking into my life and noticing that, my family was good. My husband was doing his thing. You know, our business was working. The only common thing was myself in everything else that was happening. And I realized that I had so much anger towards my husband because he didn't support me, but I was never open for the support. I never asked for the support. I wanted him to, lead in a certain way, but I never let it go of control. I needed to control everything. I needed to have, all the answers for everything. I wanted to be healthier and train, but I didn't take time to look into my emotional body and what was going on. So I was, yes, looking fit from the outside, but my gut was suffering. My sleep was suffering. There were so many reasons and signs there that I knew, like, I'm not okay.
So take me back a little bit there. You said that you wanted your husband to lead, but you wouldn't let him have control. Is there something in there that maybe you didn't he may not have understood what he was supposed to do? Maybe was there a communication of this is what I need? Would you have known how to communicate that anyway?
Well, I do now. I didn't know then. I
Right.
didn't know how to communicate
Yeah.
because what I find a lot with women, and that was me, is that we do everything because we know how to do it and we can do it. So we just keep doing it. And the men, they want to help. They are there to support, but they don't know how because we got so used to in doing the things that it's easier for us to do it than explain to them what we need. And in fact, just that act of explaining what we need is very vulnerable. So we bypass that. And what happens, we create resentment. We don't want to have sex anymore. We become angry. We do the things, but we do with, that passive aggression kind of thing. And that in a compound way, of course, is not going to lead to a good place.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. My marriage was I was about to sign the divorce papers. I'm like, this is it. So I had to ask myself, like, well, if I leave this marriage, is that the solution? Or is the solution doing the work myself and finding, what actually is happening? And, because I knew that if I left my husband, I would find someone else, and I would be the same person in that relationship.
Thank you for going there. I know that was really deep, and that's a big thing, but I think that's a message that a lot of people internalize and either one, don't want to face, or two, don't know how to express it or say it anyway in the first place. I want to take you back a little bit and see if you can put these two together,
Yes.
because I'm curious. Growing up, there was you, two brothers, and 5 cousins.
Yes.
And they're all boys. So you got to a point where it's just whatever they want to do, let's just run along with that, and I'm going to toughen up and I'm going to be one of them. You grow up a little bit, you go to uni, you become a lawyer, which obviously you have to be pretty tough to do that, especially a criminal lawyer. So that obviously would change you a little bit from the I'm just going to follow through to you would have to be toughen up to be a leader. But I guess being amongst those boys would have toughened you up in some ways as well. But then you go down further where you're married and it's like, I've got this. I'm in control here. Is there a progression? Is there something that you could relate back to as to how that progression worked?
Great question. I believe deeply that everything comes from childhood. Yeah. And I feel that my need for controlling was a safe mechanism that I was playing at the time so I could feel safe. And even, again, having, growing up around so many, male energy and having a father who was very, a provider and someone that had strong ideas about what was best for me and for the family, that was a controlling as well. So I learned very early that controlling is equal safety. So I learned how to control in my life. I had to know what was happening. I had to know where I was going. And so when I started to break down, literally, I was out of control. The things in my life, the pillars that I had, which I held on to control, they were falling apart. It's like they were built on sand and they were melting away. And I was freaking out. I was angry. I couldn't understand why. So I feel that everything comes through this place of I need to feel safe here. And, that's what most women and humans, we don't know. So we keep on pushing and forcing and forcing and forcing. And, be out of desperation that we don't know any other way. So it really takes a lot of self-awareness to see, what is the game? am I playing the game or is the game playing me?
Mm. What were the things you were trying to grasp hold of to keep control?
Finance, right? So the feeling was, um, if I stop, everything will crumble. Even though we had
Mm.
money in the bank, even though, we had businesses, even though I knew that things were coming in, I still felt that if I stopped, things would crumble. Right? I had to be in control. I have to know everything. I had to have the certain amount in the bank, like, everything that was controlling about my body and my health, right? I had to control how much I train, and I had to be in a certain way, and I had to do the certain things. And I was having eating disorder. I had eating disorder at that time, and no one knew about it,
Mm.
right? So I would train like crazy and fight and hours a day, and I would go at night and binge eating, right? And that was a way of punishment, but
Mm.
also controlling. Yeah, controlling my relationship. So I was the one controlling. That's what we're gonna do. That's how it is. That's what making all the decisions where my husband, of course, had no place to lead, and for him to avoid any more disagreement, he was like, all right, just do it your way, right?
Mm.
So the people started to sort of give up around you because you don't leave space for anybody else to actually even give you feedback.
So there would have been that time, obviously, you started to think about all of this and what was happening and what was going on. But getting to that point of actually being able to go, I can't do this. I can't control everything. I can't do everything and be everything that I think I need to be. How did you get to a point where you could actually start letting go a little bit of things? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. No. For me, to be honest, it got to a point where I felt that I was having panic attacks and I was having, you know, depression, and I started taking medication for depression. I realized that I either look into this or I don't know what's going to happen for me. And I had little kids. So I'm like,
Mm.
I must. It's not a
Mm.
choice. I must. So that was one of the first reasons. And the other one for me, how I was able to start the healing process was accept support, asking for support. So I started doing therapy. I started asking for energy, kind of energy healing, Reiki, access bars. I hire a mentor later, a few months later. So just allowing the support in, allowing to people to see me in places of being vulnerable, and to like supporting me in showing me strategies and tools on where I could better myself.
It's a very hard thing to get there. Like a surrender and a vulnerability that, because you've got the walls up, pretty strong steel ones by the sounds of things, and to sort of let them down a little bit, become vulnerable, it's not easy. What gave you the strength? Obviously, your kids.
My kids,
It's
yeah.
obviously a major thing. Was there anything else?
I feel there was literally, myself not being able to walk at times, paralyzed with, panic
Wow.
attacks,
Wow.
having panic attacks with my kids in the car, and then looking at my kids, and I know that they were not getting the best version of me. I was sad, I was angry,
Mm.
seeing my marriage coming to a breakup. My husband got to a point where he's like, I just can't do this anymore. Like I'm out. And I'm like, wow, this is serious. So I saw so much, all corners of my life, they were just falling apart,
Mm.
and I wish that I didn't have to get to the point where my nervous system was completely, dysregulated. My gut was suffering, everything, literally everything, that I could have picked up a little bit before that, right? That I didn't need to get to that point. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do right now, which is to bring women to the place of awareness way before, hopefully, when they get to this point.
So you had sort of two opposite things going on. You had your kids, which is a strong motivator to, I need to be there for them. And then you had the I need to get out of here sort of thing going on. Both of those sort of a fear, I guess, one, a love for your kids, but also a fear of what's going to happen if you didn't make a change.
Exactly.
How do you help other women now get to that point where they can see these things and make those big whys a priority in life?
So I know that we are always either moving away from pain or we're moving towards pleasure. Yeah. At that time, I was moving away from pain. I'm like, this is too painful. I must get away from this. And that was my exit time, and was, thank God, the best thing that ever happened to me because it led me to where I am today. So I work with a lot of women.
Sorry, I'm going to
Yes.
go back and say that again.
What part?
That part about the best thing that happened to you.
Yeah. I can now, connecting everything that has happened to me, I know that that was a gift and that was the best thing that ever happened to me because it led me not only to find myself, but find my purpose in this lifetime.
That's what I want people to hear. Because most people, we've all got a story, like you said at the beginning.
Exactly.
We've all got stuff that's happening, and most of us look at it the wrong way. We look at it as, no, this is killing me. It's doing the wrong thing to me. I can't get back from this. That's exactly what this podcast is about. You take that, turn it around, and make your life into something where you're helping other people. And it's exactly what you've done. So sorry, keep going. That's my interruption's done now.
I love it. I love your share. So just on that as well, I now, with my maturity, very 43, very different than that, 30 years old that I was back then. I now understand that even through the challenges time, which I'm still going through now, we all are,
We all
because we're humans, and we are always evolving. And when I do speaking stages and podcasts, people always ask me like, "How is now your life? Have you been able to get to a place?" I'm like, "No, you're always on the bottom of the next mountain."
Yes.
And I like that. I like to keep myself humble enough. I like to be a student. I like to say I'm still learning. Yeah, because I understand that even through the cloudy, the foggy, the hardships and the challenges, I know that there is a divine order orchestrating myself to my next self. Yeah, and I think when we can have the certainty, the faith, that no matter what's happening, it's happening for your highest good.
Yes.
We can walk with that, with knowing that we're being held through that. And I know that if you told me that when I was there, I would say
No.
bullshit. Yeah, I would say,
totally.
oh, there we go.
Totally.
Another, I would probably my mom would tell me these kind of things, and I'm like, oh, just rolling my eyes. But
Yeah.
it's so true,
Yeah.
and I really wish that I could then understand this concept. Yes.
It's one of those things about when you're going through something you think it's going to kill you.
Yes.
The good news is that you're alive because it hasn't yet. So
Yes.
just keep going. It is going to turn around. It is going to get better if you use it the right way.
Yes, I do. I talk a lot about that as well. Not dying, and actually, everything's just making you stronger and stronger, and it's sharpening you to whatever your gift is in this lifetime. Yeah.
When you're working with, obviously you work mostly with women, and this applies to men and women, obviously, but your focus is both. How do you get them to a point? Because I really want people to hear this, that a lot of people that I talk to and I work with, they feel they're in this place where it's too late for me, or I can't change this, or it's too difficult, or I've got these responsibilities so I can't make a difference, or whatever it is. We've all got our excuses. And I know that might sound harsh sometimes to call them excuses, but the reality is if we pull back and think about it long enough, they are. Now, they might be ridiculously good, very real excuses, but they're still excuses.
Yeah.
How do you get people to go beyond that into, I'm going to start to make a change no matter how hard it is to start with?
I absolutely love this question. So, what I would like to start with is we all have excuses. And I always like to challenge my women and say, is that true, or is that a limiting belief that is stopping you from living your fullest potential right now, right? And it's a good question to reflect on. Like, is it really true? And I like to say that we all have a certain part of our life left, right? We all had to all have to go through whatever it is, the challenges and traumas and hardships to get where we are right now. We all have those, and that's why we are a miracle and we are unique, and there is no one else in this entire universe like you or me.
Yeah.
So we have been through specific challenges. However, we all have a few chapters left in this lifetime. And that's how I always like to bring my woman into this place of power. It's like, all right, if you get to be an author, if you get to be a writer of your own chapters, like what does it look like? What do you want to write on? How do you want to leave that to be a legacy for your future generations, your children, grandchildren, whoever it is, to read that and say, wow, she made a difference, right? It might be a difference in your marriage. It might be a difference in the world. It might be a difference in your community. It doesn't matter what difference is. It matters that we are actually intentionally making that. So I like to say, the first step is having courage over fear. We all have fear because, yes, I can have a fear of failing is a massive one that I work with women. And I can fail by doing the thing that I don't like. But imagine if I fail doing the thing that I actually love.
Yes.
What's left?
Yes.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't believe that is failing at all. I think everything's a feedback, right? Well, that didn't work. Great. Let's pivot and let's keep going. So I feel that that's a big one, is moving through fear and stepping into courage, right? We all have fear. For me to get where I am today, for me to be on this podcast talking to you, I cannot even start to talk to you about how many speaker trainings I had to do, how many, years of studying English I had to do to go from not speaking to be able to share my story today. So that's why I love speaking, is to give everyone a permission that it's never too late. It doesn't matter the career that you have behind you. If you have a dream and a passion, there's always a starting point. And I was doing a talk yesterday, and I was telling everybody that when I got here, I didn't have a following. I didn't even have a friend in this country. I didn't speak a word. So I literally started from scratch, from the scratch.
Wow.
And I built a community. By now, I have created a huge movement of women where I have facilitated for the past 2 years, 10 events, where I had nearly 600 women just in this event, which is called Empower Her. We have, went to different cities and different states in Australia, and nearly 600 women have walked through my doors and have fully transformed their lives. They left years of corporate jobs. They have transformed their marriage. They open up businesses, partnership, friendships. Like, so much has been created in those rooms. And, I didn't have that. I didn't have the community. I started with one action. So whatever that is for whoever is listening, I invite you to reflect. What is one action that you can take right now? It can be, super tiny. And you just do that. And, from that, you do another one. And I call this stretching your capacity for more. The more that you do that, you can do the next thing and the next thing. And that is self-leadership. That is leading you to taking these actions to build your capacity for more, to holding more, to be more, and to create bigger impact.
I love that, because a lot of people believe that unless I can make this massive, great big jump,
Yes.
then it's not going to work. Whereas what you just said is just, what's one little thing that you can do? And it doesn't matter how small it is, what's one little thing? Because that way, whatever else is going on in life, you're moving yourself forward.
You're moving the needle forward. Exactly.
In the minutest way. There's the old thing, how do you eat an elephant?
Exactly. Yeah. Piece
I've
by
never tried
piece.
myself, but apparently it can be done.
Yes.
But it is just that one little thing, moving forward and moving forward,
Yeah.
that you put in place there. And I think that's such a critical thing. I wasn't going to go here because of where we're going, but I really feel like some people will be missing a little bit of who you are without going back to part of your story. Like some of the hardest parts for you. Like you've told us some really big stuff, but back when you were in Brazil, and I think this is just going to be critical to seal in some people that, because I'll be going, but she hasn't dealt with this, or it wasn't quite like that. Tell us back when you in Brazil and your family where you were started to fall to pieces.
Yes, that's a great story. Yeah, so I was back home in Brazil and, had a really solid family until I was about 21. And my father, we found out that he was cheating on my mother with her friend, with, someone that was close to our family. So it was a massive, traumatic, extremely painful experience for all of us. And my mom completely broke into pieces because she was the woman that did everything in the house, right? She ran the place. She was happy doing that. That was her role, being a woman supporting the family. And we are all trying to understand what was happening. I was 21. I was living, doing university. And there was a very big moment where I starting, I was partying a lot and starting to use a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol just to cope with everything else. And really, if I'm honest, to escape what was happening for myself. I felt so responsible at the time for my family because I was the only woman. And, I was mediating a lot between my father and my mother because she had no capacity. She was completely gone, in bed. And I also felt very angry with him because I didn't feel that was my place to hold that together because I was 21. It was his choice to marry when he was 23 or 20. I think he married at 21. And, that was not my responsibility to take. So I went even deeper into partying and doing all the things. Until this day, I remember I was, in an after party. After the party, we had an after party. And for as long as I could go, I would be there. And this time someone, came and put something in my mouth, and I didn't know what it was until I started to trip out, and it was a LSD. And, it was a friend of mine. She thought I wanted, but she didn't ask me for permission. So all of a sudden I was tripping out, and I started to really go into this really dark place. And I got my car. I just left. No one knew where I was, where I went. Got my car, I started driving, and I was so crazy. I remember driving and I felt like I was in this movie. So I had no idea where I was driving to. I had no idea what directions car should go or come. I was fully tripping out. And I got into the main highway, right? The highway. Crazy. It's literally crazy to drive in Brazil. So I was there and this voice just told me, park the car. So I parked the car on the side of the road. And I started to cry and cry and cry. And I was in this, child position inside of my car. It was raining outside and pouring raining. And I was inside of the car and I could see the whole movie of my life. I felt myself inside of my mother's womb again. And it was like I was, now understand, like having a full ayahuasca journey in my car by myself. Didn't know what was happening. And in that time, this voice spoke to me, which I believe it was divine, just telling me, you got to stop. You got to go back home. You got to be with your mother. And that time, a woman knocked at my window and she say, hey, I saw you here all day. It's getting dark now. Here is a very dangerous place for you to be by yourself. And I just opened the window and I started to cry. And she said, do you want me to come in? And I'm like, yes, please come in. And she offered me to hug me. And I said, yes, please. And then she said, I'm here working. I work on the street. Like she was a prostitute. She was working with the truck drivers. And she started telling her story to me. And, and it was, she was ran away from her ex-husband. Her little daughters were home because she had to work. And I was just crying. I was so grateful for her to be there with me. And then I started to feel better. So I drove her home to her place. And after that, I went back to my house. And then I went back home to my mom, to my house, my home. And I got home to my mother and I cried and I stayed with her. And that moment I stopped, actually, stopped taking anything. And it was, in that moment until this point, I knew that everything that I did, it was a reason that I wouldn't be here today. If
Mm.
I drove a little bit further,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
You've been looked after.
I've been looked after. And in that moment, I'm like, wow, if I didn't die in that moment, I know that I'm here for something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know that, and we all have these moments in our life. Yeah, this is not a story that I share very often at all. But I feel that we all have those moments where we're like, wow, if I didn't die, if this didn't happen to me now, it's because there is a greater calling in here for me. And I don't know what that is. So, yeah.
That I wanted you to tell that story because I think there's so many people who they've experienced things and they know they're supposed to be here, but they don't know why.
Yes.
Or they've been through life and they question why. Why did I go through that? Why am I still alive? But every single one of us is here for a reason and for a purpose. And we're called here. I believe every one of us is created for a reason here. And we're all here to make the world a better place, to input into other people's lives what we've learned, how we've grown, who we are, and make a difference in people's lives. And I love your story because there was so many times when you could have given up, where you could have stopped, but you didn't. And you've taken that and now you're out helping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other people. But it's not just those people. It's the individual that then goes back to their family, that then goes to their business, that then goes to create their legacy, that then goes
Yes.
ongoing. And I love that. And I think if people catch it, that it's not just a certain few, but everybody is here for that reason.
Yes. Yes, I believe that. Thank you. Really feeling my heart, receiving your words. I believe that we are all, and I hope it's okay to get spiritual in here because it's being literally the guiding force in my life, and I believe that we are all here because we are made of divine force, of divine light. We are all here for a reason.
Yeah.
And I know that I have my clients who I love, absolutely love. They have been through so much, same as I. Some things that you'd say, wow, how did you make it here? And it breaks my heart to know that humans go through that. It's terrifying. But you know what? They are the most incredible women that I see.
Yeah.
They are so strong and so powerful. And I had women that for the first time came into my stages and shared their stories. And they're out sharing in front of thousands of people their stories, stories from my client that lost, their children where they're 10 years old. And I'm like, I can never imagine what you've been through because I don't know if that would not break me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I know that we go through because that it is what we can hold.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, you've been through or the listeners been through, but I know that God gave you whatever you can hold, and whatever you can hold, it is what you're here to share with the world. And it doesn't matter if it is the conversation that you have with someone in the chemist or in the supermarket, or if someone on the street, or if your children, or with your partner. That is impact. That is change. And people think that
Yes.
impact, that, oh, I want to create a change, it's got to be big, it's got to be massive. It does not. It starts with you, with yourself, with your children, with your family. It starts small and it grows from that, because it's within.
Yeah.
It's when I'm able to see myself as divine creator, as divine light, and I know for a fact that everything that I've been through is a reason, and I'm able, and I take ownership of my story. And I say my story, and I'm going to share my story, because if I share, you're going to share yours.
Yeah. And every one of us has a story that can
Definitely.
impact other people. And like you just said, it's just, you can help somebody else wherever it is. It's out on the street, at the
Yes.
supermarket, whatever it is. Just a little bit of kindness, a little positive word,
Yes.
a little listening to somebody.
And sometimes that goes into your full, I know people that started with, acts of kindness, and they went on, I'm just going to record this and then put on Instagram. And that became, such a movement of like, millions of followers.
Yeah.
I had people who started by, I'm going to do this campaign to, help the homeless people. And then now they are, the director of this, foundation that, employs like so many people. And it starts with you following your light, your heart.
Yes.
And whatever that's going to take, I don't know. I never knew that I was going to be here. I never knew that
No.
I was going to be leading this movement of women. I never knew that. It was just by me following my heart and doing what was best for me, for, walking the light, of the creator, and, and just doing what's right, what's in integrity with my soul, with myself.
Yeah. And it's just starting.
It's just starting.
Just start. Just something. Anything.
Yeah.
Do a podcast. Do it. Just be nice to somebody. Go and buy
Do
a
a
coffee.
post.
Do it. Does it? Yeah. Do a
Yeah.
post.
Do a live.
Anything.
Yeah. Anything.
Just text someone in the morning and go, "Hey, just hope you have a great day today.
Yes.
Just thinking of you."
Yeah.
Simple.
Something, yesterday I was on a leadership training, I just shared with you before, and I love being a student. And one of the things that we had was, going on the street and giving love notes or like affirmation notes. And we had hundreds, and that was a task for our team, create an impact, a positive impact in the world. And we were writing Surface Paradise, and, and I wrote the most beautiful notes, and it was so special. And I got reminded in the moment, I'm like, wow, this is so simple. But you saw people tearing up when they received that note, and they were like, man, I really needed this today. Thank you so much. And like, it's always available to us. You write, notes, and you just go out and just giving to people. And I know if I received that, I would be so happy, right? Just like, hey, you were special. Like, just keep going.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and it's simple.
It's interesting, because people talk about how dark the world is and how hard it is, and no one's denying that. But the good news about that is that just the darker the room, the smallest little candle can light up that whole room. It doesn't need to be a big bright light. Just one little candle can light up a whole dark room.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, just like those notes
Ooh,
that
I
you
got
just said.
goosebumps. Yeah. Yeah.
Just doing that makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you think about, and obviously you didn't get to helping hundreds of women just by one day it's like, I've got to make a difference because I'm not happy. Whoa, now look at me, I'm helping hundreds of women all of a sudden.
Exactly.
It doesn't just happen like that. How did you start making a difference?
I started, as I shared before, first with myself, and then by, seeing the results in my own life, I'm like, wow, this is so powerful. I want to learn more. And I'm a very curious person. As I say, I love being a student. So I'm like, all right, let me learn this and that and this. So I learned all these different modalities until I say, this is really powerful. And I think one secret that I'm going to share here is you must be open to receive the signs that are presented to you. Because the creator, God, the spirit, universe, however you want to call it, will always be sending you signs of your path, either if it is in alignment or if it's not. So I started to receive those signs, let's say friends coming sharing with me, wow, I've been through the same journey. Or other friends say, would you facilitate a small, sound healing for us? And I'm like, oh, sure. So it is about you saying yes when those signs are presented to you. Small yeses. So, 3, 4 friends that we got together and I facilitated a sound healing. I was just learning. I just recently bought my crystal balls. And from that, we started to grow a little bit more and a little bit more. And eventually I was doing women's circle. And every time I was so afraid. Until now, I have spoken in front of 1,000 people audience,
Yeah.
and I'm always afraid to walk on the stage. Still to this day, and I'm not sure when that's gonna change. But I'm willing to say yes and just do it, right? So you got to be willing.
I love that.
Yeah,
You're always scared, but you still do it.
always until now, and I always share
Yeah.
that. I'm like I'm here, and I still feel the nervousness inside of myself because that creates like we are all together in this.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But you're willing to do it,
Yeah.
willing to take a risk. And I know I've been on a few stages as well. And every time you go up, you have the biggest chance to make a fool of yourself.
Yeah.
But it's like,
So
well, you've
true.
got that opportunity to make a massive impact on people, or you can be selfish and go, oh, what about me and my pride? There's a couple of options we got there. I don't particularly
Great
like the second
point.
one. The second one's much more comfortable,
So much more.
much easier, but it's probably not the best option.
Yeah. I feel that, when you change the focusing about yourself, this is about me. It's about me staying comfortable. It's about me, whatever stories you have going on. There's so many of them. And when you say, this is not about me, it's about them. It's about me being service and trust that I'm here to create an impact. And if this opportunity came my way, I'm going to honor that. And I'm going to say yes. And then you go into that and you're like, and of course, I'm getting nervous because I'm making about me in this moment. I'm like, what if I fail here? What if I forget? What
Yeah.
if something goes wrong? However, when I ground myself and I make, well, this is about them. It's about what they're going to receive. It's about me sharing my story because I know there is someone in here today that will listen to this podcast
Yeah.
and they will have their life transformed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's why we do all this stuff, for that to happen.
Yeah.
I got an interesting story, happened just recently. I've got this massive project that I'm working on. I wanted to do it for years. And I'm like, I need to make this happen. And I just met this guy a few weeks ago who happens to be in the industry that I'm wanting to do this. And I'm like, I'm just going to ask him a quick little question. I asked him a quick little question. 20 minutes later, he gives me all this stuff. I went and over the weekend put together a whole ton of stuff and outline what needs to happen, how it needs to work, how to start getting things moving and all of that sort of stuff. Just by going, okay, I'm going to say yes, like you just did. And it's interesting how God lines up all the little chess
Yes.
pieces in the right direction to make things happen when it's what we're supposed to be doing. And half the time we don't know if we're supposed to be doing it or not. So it's like, oh, well, I won't do it just in case. No, just give it a shot, just in case, because you don't know where it could go.
I love that. I feel that if we have the calling, if we have the desire, that's God sent.
Yes.
You receive the desire because God gave that to you.
Yes.
So you have a desire there, and it is up to you to say yes to that. So you receive the desire. I can ask him a question, or I desire to ask him a question. You could say, oh, no, later, I'll do another time. But you say, no, I'm going to do it. And that can change completely the direction of your life or your business,
Yeah.
or I don't know where you're going, but it can be a completely pivoting moment for you.
Exactly.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, which is really cool. Mariana, this has been amazing. I've so loved. I knew it was going to be good. I just knew it. Thank you for coming on to the Tomorrow's Not Today podcast. I do need to ask a question at the end, which I always do. How do you create the life you want and leave a legacy that you're proud of?
Amazing. How do you create a life you want? I feel that creating a life, this is what I say. I teach a woman how to create a life that feels as good as it looks. And
Oh, I like that.
yeah,
Yes.
and I feel that the secret for that is knowing who you are, being your authentic self. So start to be honest with yourself, start to ask yourself the right questions, start to see the signs of what's not working and what's being presented to you. Just become, you know, a watch, seeing the signs in your own life. Yeah. And the second question?
And leave a legacy that you're proud of. How do you do that?
With intention. Yeah, I feel everything comes with intention. So I always say that you are always creating an impact. Everybody's a leader, either you want or not. There is a research done that even the most introverted person, the one that plays video game behind the screen all day, completely introverted, is still along its lifetime will impact around 17,000 people.
Really?
Yeah, by the interactions.
Wow.
So I want to say that you are a leader, I'm a leader, everybody else listening to this, they are leading in a way or another. But your intention to lead, how you want to lead, and what you want to say, how you want to act, the energy that you want to bring to the world, it's up to you.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. How can people get in touch with you, follow you, maybe do one of your trainings, something like that?
Yes. So we are in transition now. I'm about to launch a new incredible one-day experience for women. I also have a 2-day experience called Magnetic Woman. But the best way to find everything that I do is on my Instagram, Mariana Lennert. And I have everything there, what's coming next. And I would love to have anyone that is interested in this work and step into leadership and become, a powerhouse in the world.
Perfect. And any woman needs to, go through just to do that. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. You're definitely going to
Exactly.
gain a lot from you. I know you've got so much more that we couldn't cover today. Obviously, you didn't go into all your training and things like that. But I love how you're helping people and inspiring so many people as well, which is awesome. Thank you so
My
much
pleasure.
for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, it's
I
been
really
amazing.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I cannot wait to be back. So thanks for having me
Yeah.
this time. Yes.
Thanks, Mariana.